Now let's start on projected revenues. We can.
Sorry?
Projected revenues. The
This sheet?
proposed 2014-15 budget analysis. On the agenda, it's under projected revenues for 2014-15.
I'm not.
The projected revenues at this moment
Hold on,
are.
I have to look. I'm there.
So the projected revenues are right now at $12,005,688. Our expenses are at $12,588,479. So that leaves us with a budget gap of $582,791, which last meeting we had discussed using that fund balance.
So before we go on, can I ask, which of the cuts that we have discussed are included in these numbers?
That was my next slide.
Okay.
So then if we want to go to the additional possible cuts, the proposed round one cuts are out, that number, as is the proposed round two cuts. The cuts to consider are still in that budget.
Can you repeat
Either
that?
possible or keep are the only ones that we did not talk about in the last meeting that were put on the cut list.
So the first two charts are in the budget that we just talked about?
They're out of the budget. The cuts
They're
are made, yes.
So the round one, round two cuts are in that second.
Still in that
Yes.
582.
Okay, so,
One of the things I do want to discuss, the two things, DL was not originally put on the list, but we did put it under the proposed round of second cuts. The board has not discussed DL or people services. So if you look at your list, they're both starred, and we put a little thing on that. Distance learning would be a savings of 25,274. And we can discuss some of the numbers. People services is an amount that we chose to cut down. It's not necessarily cut. We put so much in budget each year. If we get new students that move in that might need services, speech, OT, PT, so that we have monies in the budget for those students as they come in. So that we did put that in. That's kind of an easier one. But the DL is one of the ones that we thought needed with the guidance department that is a very expensive program for a very small number of students.
This includes all of them?
Yes, across the board. And it's probably more than 25. It's probably closer to 30 or 32, but we couldn't get the lines in, bank lines, computer lines. all
I
of
thought
this.
back when we started this, this is learning was to help enrich the students when they graduate so that they can get courses that they could normally get because of our location.
That is the purpose of it, and yeah, I don't know if you want to speak
What's
about
the
that,
numbers
Peter.
on that?
We don't have your students taking it, but it's under 10. And what I've done to try to kind of overcome that gap, and we actually were in the process of that, whether we kept the or not, was we added some college courses. So for instance, English, they are now going to have the opportunity as seniors to get 6 credits, two classes in English. So a lot of classes that our students, we have students taking marketing, half of them have students take psychology, sociology, maybe a criminal justice, and maybe an English literature class, but again, these are very small numbers of students. So we're also considering adding an art history class as college credit. And at the last meeting, Reggie, I talked about, they have, when they graduate, possibly, we're up to thinking possibly 21 credits that they could have by the time they graduate for a minimal cost, about the cost of one student college class. So
That's
we are making
in-house.
strides in
You're
that
talking in-house.
in-house. And it's going to be all this stuff, it's not for AP, it's it's gonna be Paul Smith.
You're talking about a minimum amount of money, is that the minimum, are we paying for that, or the student
This,
parents?
first of all, when the students take AP classes, they have to pay a partial fee for the AP exam. So that's nominal fees, I want to say $35. Then for the Paul Smith class, if they decide to take those, it's right now, of course, I know that this might change as we go, as years progress. But right now, a student will pay $60 for a 3-credit class. It's incredible. So we currently have college algebra that a student can take through Paul Smith, again, for $60, a 3-credit class, and we have a marketing class that they can get through Mr. Remington. So we added in the 6 credits of English. We're working on art history. Mrs. Nicky is working on that. And I think we've got almost every discipline now has a college credit course available to them.
How are they hardly getting this from the false
They have like a program where if you submit syllabi, a course outline,
Where the calculation?
no,
Our
the teacher
teachers.
actually teaches it, and the teachers will instruct the course. And then the student in turn, so they have to submit a syllabus, making sure it correlates to what, something that they would accept at their level, collegiate level. It has to pass through us, and then it moves on to Paul Smith. Paul Smith reviews it, and once they, kind of give their seal of approval, it comes back to us, and we incorporate the class in their schedule.
You're
The
saying
better
by-
part of that, Angie, is that it's our teacher actually teaching the
Right.
course at the college level. When we're going on the DL, we have to look at the schedule of whenever it's coming. What frequently happens is it's in the middle of a period, so it goes into the middle of one and it runs into the next. And we found these as more viable. Being a smaller school, frequently we don't get a choice. Schools who put 6 kids in a class get the 6 slots before we ever do. So if we can even get it into the schedule, we're not always getting what we want.
I mean, I would prefer to keep it, of course, but we were moving forward with these classes whether we have DL or not. So it was just gonna, again, provide this full complement, but we have, it's an expensive program to have and maintain for a very few number of students.
Are there any specific?
And the students have to pay, if they do receive college credit, they have to pay the tuition fee, which is $700.
Are students going to use any of their desired courses by dropping this?
The only one that we have to really be cautious with is AP Calculus. That's one that we do have 3 students in it currently this year that they're taking. We have approached our math department. There's a teacher willing, she used to teach it in the past, and she's willing to pick that back up. Again, we're concerned about the number of students. As you can imagine, operating a class with 2 students or even 3 is sometimes very tricky. So it will be a bit of a game where we're going to cross the high wire here and try to maintain our balance, because we want to incorporate the class, we don't want to lose it. That would mean we would have 2 classes where they could get college credit in math, but again, it's in numbers, they are willing to make it fit in the schedule, and if we can make it work, we're going to do the best that we can. But they still have the college algebra.
We also talk about not running courses for less than 5 students. So the times and years of giving a class for 2 students, we can't financially keep doing.
So you're saying there's only 10 students that possibly could be impacted by cutting the DL line?
Well,
And this can be
currently
picked up
this year,
someplace else.
currently students that are currently enrolled in classes right now. Because as Mrs., Alford was scheduling, she, obviously, we're all aware that there are budget constraints going on. She still would have talked to students about the possible classes that were on there. We may have to go back to those students and say, we're not going to be offering DL classes, we need to find you something supplemental to take in place of that, and remove that.
And it's also not to say we can't pick up computer-based courses where the student does it on their own during school time on a computer. And so there are many of those courses available at cheaper rates as well than DL.
I think on the whole, most of our students will be very happy taking the classes that we're going to be offering here, but I'm sure there will be a couple of kids that there would have been a class that they would like to take. I'm not going to say that it's not going to impact anyone, because I'm sure it will. But I do feel like we're providing a wonderful resource by having our own in-house staff offer these college credits. Again, it's much cheaper, not only just from the DL, but even the class that they're taking, $60 versus if it was a college credit offered to a student can, and you're looking at $700 that the student would have been expected to pay, which is why we have fewer students taking advantage of some of the DL classes, this year.
What is,
It's due Friday.
isn't it aided?
Yes, but the initial cost, I mean, that's almost the initial cost, but you don't get that till the next year. And we still have to bill that whole amount into the budget, Rich. Okay. I don't know that people always
They're aided
understand that.
about 88, 90%.
Basic.
It shows up.
Different things are different amounts.
Yeah.
It shows up in that year's revenue.
It does, but that's why people don't realize when you're putting your budget together, those larger numbers are what's in the budget. You might get aided on some of those things.
But we're getting aided for last year right now, which is the next one.
If, depending how many students we had, correct? And we've gone as low as 3 students and as high as 10
If you,
in the last 5 years.
if you get 90% of this aid on this money, what's it figure? 25,000, 90% of that would be around, what's that? 22,000. So we get aided 22,000 and you're spending actually, amount from the district would be 3,000.
I mean, it's still, as Mrs. said, it's still in the budget, so, I mean, it's still money.
It's no different than any of the other ones that are aided, Reg. It's the number we have to get up to. We're already at 582,000 that the board talked about last meeting, putting in from fund balance. So any of them are trade-offs. And that's what needs to be decided tonight, you know, what we want to leave, what we want to take, what we want to swap around or add.
Money we don't take out of the fund balance this year, even though we're gonna get 90% of it back, it's still coming out of the fund.
You also have to remember, whatever you pay for your fund balance this year, you're going to pay that and more the following year. And that's the part that bites us in the end.
So about me, I think the budget is 547,000 as benefits. When we talk about $582,000 gap, $540,000 benefits, the only place we can cut is
Everywhere else but.
everywhere else.
And that's what keeps coming across, you know.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we're in that situation. It's unfortunate the state hasn't even let us know exactly what our state aid is. We probably won't know until we
April
go there.
1st is the deadline.
What's that?
April 1st is the actual deadline. Last few
Yeah,
years they've been on time.
It doesn't mean anything to them.
No.
No, I mean, they can be late with no penalty.
Yeah.
So,
But we're still required to turn in our BOCES final commitment before April 1st.
What happens if we did?
We may not get in, I mean, I'm not saying, I don't know, but they needed to build their budgets. Obviously, theirs had their, you know, needing is appropriated also.
so that budget line item may or may not be enough depending on how it's used.
You, no, it costs that, it costs that regardless.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how many students, because that's just the basic cost of all of that. And as I said, that's truly, I didn't,
We have tied it in the payment there.
It was flat rate no matter what.
I know.
I don't know what you're asking.
I was on the board when we started this whole thing, and I thought all the districts had to put a certain amount of money to keep this thing up.
Only if you're using it.
Only, is that the policy now?
Yep.
So,
And even though we pay, we still may not get what we ask for.
so we pay this amount and our reimbursement, our aid is based on usage or it's not even?
It's
It's based on what you pay for aid.
Okay, so, based on, okay, so if it's aided at some percentage, and even though we have to spend it this year, you sort of get it back next year. the
That's
impact-
true with many of these things.
Right.
That's not the
And
only.
it's probably, so it's hard to really judge the impact. I mean, one of these things must, I mean, there are some things that we don't get any aid for that have a real-time impact.
Correct.
And some things with this that have a temporary impact. The permanent impact is something else.
So when you build your budget, you're still using, you have to use the full figures.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I mean, for something that we're gonna get aided for it, I don't know, and we're not really sure what the level is, but typically it's 80-90%, and we keep compensating at
It's about 82%.
82%.
How do they assign them? You said we may not get what we asked for, is that other schools that have more
Because other
students?
schools, if you have a bulk of students, the bulk group is going to get it first. And frequently, we get knocked out, we don't get a slot, because we usually have maybe one or two that want a particular class. And sometimes we're lucky we get, you know, one or two students get them. What then we have to do is modify that student schedule and try to work around everything else that they're taking to be able to get to the DL room at that time. Because obviously our schedules don't run the same as,
Mr. Buckley no longer has that.
he's not teaching. The only person that I'm aware of that was teaching the last couple of years was Terry Remington, and he's retiring.
Is that criminal justice?
I can't hear you right
Well,
now.
Sherry
he's
teach
teaching.
marketing.
Marvin?
Marketing.
Sometimes he does small business management.
And he used to do sports management.
Yes.
And that a couple years ago. But many of the teachers are not interested in teaching DL, which obviously gives us a bonus, because then we do get money back if we have somebody teach one of the courses. But that's hard to get people to feel comfortable doing that.
It's hard to have time now, the way
Mhm.
schedule.
One of the issues with the DL classes is that at times, like it might land in the middle of third period, DL class, and go to the middle of fourth period. So then the student can't take two classes here because they're taking one class in DL. So that's one of the conflicts, not that that's a reason for us to not do it, but that there is an issue with that, and that impacts the student schedule.
Is the person that's teaching that course in a school setting himself, or is he teaching from, say, BOCES?
No, generally they're in a school, could be a college, but yes, could be
Or it
somebody
could be
Canton,
college.
could be somebody Canton, or it could be, in one of the schools around us. And as you can imagine, if you've ever taken something like that remotely, the organization level that's required to make a class like that successful is incredible, because the paperwork has to be at the student's school district before, well in advance of what they expect to get. And there's monitoring that the guidance office needs to do, so if students are, expected to take an exam, they have to get to the guidance office administers the exam, because there's not really a teacher in there monitoring, so there are some other pieces to that make it a little more complicated.
You mentioned that there may be some other options similar to this. But we haven't explored them, so we don't know, number one, if they're available, number two, if you get aid back, what the real cost would be.
Well, some of the things that we would look at would obviously be things that they would be able to take on the computer. They do us, as we all start to take online classes, the opportunities that are available for online coursework is expanding exponentially. So there may be some ways for us to fill in the gap with things like that. But probably I don't see a huge loss to our students, other than in some of those elective areas that we can't offer in-house, such as marketing, because we're going to be losing some of the business opportunities. So students that want to take that, and if they want like a psychology or sociology, I can see where those would be areas that, they might not be able to achieve that based on what we offer currently.
So when you look at this and you think of the value of that program versus the value of other programs, we would have to consider for Cabot, for example, potentially.
Well, when we're limiting classes in-house,
Yeah,
sometimes it's hard to say, we're cutting teachers to half-time,
yeah,
then to offer this for one or two kids, you
yeah.
have to balance.
So that's kind of
that.
the value
Side.
proposition that I was kind of
Right.
getting at. Is this really offering us the value that we need based on, versus some other things that we can keep if we, do this, for example, or if we kept this, we may have to get rid of to balance things.
Right, I certainly would like to see our staff and crew schedules full with elective offerings through fall semesters, et cetera, or AP coursework
Versus this. That would be
versus
better.
that, absolutely.
Okay,
And the guidance department agreed with that.
okay.
I mean, again, we could have potential for 21 college credits, just through our staff. That's, to me, is outstanding.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Thank you.
We can come back to this, but I want to go into the 5-year projected budget. This year, with using $582,000 in fund balance, that will start us at a $1,078,000 deficit with just estimated increases for next year for your contractual, your health and everything. Those are just the standard increases. So we're going to be looking next year at a $1.1 almost $1 million gap. That's before using your fund balance. We'll only be able to use about $900, about $1 million in fund balance next year. That's what will be available for use. So,
Which is not what she's recommending.
no,
Okay, well, I just wanted to know.
and it will still leave us almost $74,000 to make up if we use the entire amount available for
in discussing, at contract time to go discuss with both of the unions, right or nine, is one of the options that we want to put on the
Save quite
table.
a lot of money, yeah.
Agenda item during those discussions. Even with writing, do we have a feel for what those costs will escalate at?
It's, I mean, there's still, it's going to bite us at the end, but it's going to give us more money each year to spend. But the other part is, what will you have to give to the groups to take right or nine? Because they're not gonna just willingly or voluntarily take it.
Well,
And I think
They'll have to
it comes to a point, it's your job or not.
yeah, we won't have to go for them to go to.
It's not quite how unions work.
I know,
I mean, it's,
they took what, $35 million, $500,000 in gap funding from us over the last 5 years?
we have
That's my
the next slide.
You know, they've taken that away from us and they gave us nothing back.
That's why we are where we are.
That's where things, that's why we want you folks to see though, what it is, what's happening, where the negatives are coming from. It's not just poor planning, it's not overspending, it's not, it's year after year, we're losing more funding.
So if we go to the current and historical fund balance data, the first page is the fund balance where we are and what we can use the reserves for. The second one is the, our fund balance history. On the right-hand side, there's the gap elimination adjustment, the GEA. And since 2010-11 school year, the state has taken back from us $2.2 million.
So that's, it shows negative versus 20,000 on the other years, okay.
The brackets
The
are
bracket
deficit.
deficit, yeah. But the 2.2 million is the way the state decided to balance their budget. Instead of saying, we're not gonna give you as much, they gave us the same amount, but, oh, we're gonna take this money back.
So over the last 4 years.
It doesn't make sense to me why they would do that, but they did. And it's gonna continue for another 2-3 years.
Tonight on the news, they were saying, just before I walked out, Watertown announced that they have next year, the year after, 2 years, they will not be able to open the doors in September.
And that's where a lot of the schools are.
Well, that's a large number of kids in the city of Watertown. So I think before that, someone's going to get back and fund that.
It's not gonna be this year.
No,
I
it'll be this
mean, we
year.
all know General Brown's there this year,
Yeah.
and the state is not stepping in. I mean, they may not make the school year.
We're gonna save about 2 years from now.
2 years
Correct.
now.
And Canton is on the doorstep right now.
The underfunded foundation aid, they froze the foundation aid and they've had slight adjustments. But this is a little more subjective. This is what some financial advisors thought it would increase. If it had increased the way it had historically increased, we would have had another $11 million. So that's, together, is a year's budget for us.
$13 million.
That's a year's budget. That would be one more year we could survive. So,
Most states in the same situation.
I know, but I just can't believe how the state is just turning their, just saying, you know, they don't have an answer, they don't have a response.
So the reality is, no matter what we do in 2 years, we don't have enough money from the schools.
unless something changes.
But they have $9 million for pre-K for New York City.
Yes.
$9 million in there.
Well, and you know, originally it was for up here as well, but then it just, now it's all New York City.
But and also, in all things I've heard, they're trying to give more aid to charter schools, to private schools. That's what the talks are going on now, between the governor, the Senate, and the House. That's-
Well, he went to private school, I guess it's only right he went to Wales.
I don't understand what's our job here. Our job is,
So, yeah.
you know,
Keep this off as long as possible
I see.
until something changes.
Okay. Well,
Well, I think General Brown said that, until this is where they are
This
now.
is the city of Watertown, the same thing.
Right.
So,
so what's General Brown's options?
merge.
Merge.
But a merger, they couldn't even merge, it's gonna take 3 years to get a fluent merger going. So they don't know that they will be open in June.
Permanent summer vacation.
That's, it's, everybody's watching to say what's gonna happen.
What's your numbers?
I don't,
Zero guys?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I can't even project or guess.
There's nothing we can do.
So do we want to go back over the original lists that we went through last board meeting? Or do you want to keep as is and just go through the maybe and the 2 stars and cuts, or what you folks need to tell me what to do?
So we've got a plan to cover the $582,000 gap of fund balance. It shows up.
So we proposing no increase in tax,
No, we
So
had a
that's,
tax increase,
that's a tax 2.7.
2.7.
That's the max we can go with.
That's the max without approval.
Yeah, we would need a supermajority to go above and beyond.
Fairground is about 700.
So
Students.
So about 111.
We have the fund balance.
is that a new percentage? I thought I've seen school with 4% and then it passed.
It's based on your exclusions. Your,
So we're limited.
we don't have any exclusions. Last year we had a 9%, well, it's 9%. We chose 4. Last year we had TRS exclusion, which the teacher retirement, if it goes over 2%, anything over the 2% for any retirement system, we can exclude. Last year it went up 4%, so we were able to exclude 2. So that added to what we could raise. We also had a carryover from the year before because we had only went up. We actually stayed at 0. So we could have went up to the 2%. Last year they let that carry over. This year we didn't have any carryovers. Also, I did want to touch on a couple of topics. The transportation aid document. We don't get transfer aid on every little thing for transportation. We do have some disallowance. So any mileage related to field trips, athletic events, regular school programs, summer school programs, we don't get allowed. We also, the way they calculate our percentage is anyone within 2 miles, 2-mile radius, we don't get aid either. Which,
And even though we're 100% bused,
Yes.
obviously.
So they just got to pay a mileage for everybody, but anything closer to 2 miles.
they come up with a calculation based on whoever we have within 2 miles. Which really is not
And that's
a lot
not different for,
No,
that's.
that's the way it's always been. And we've never gotten aid on field trips or athletic events. That's part of our share.
The only summer school we do get aid on is special ed students who have 12-month programming. So that we are busing students to other districts, we are getting aid on that.
So I just wanted to clarify that because that was a question that had been posed to me. Also, with the administration raises, the way it had been done, I changed it this year. They had never budgeted for it. They always had to do a transfer. I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't like the way that was being done. But I understand the reasoning why, was because that negotiations between the admin was never really taking place until the year it started. So that's why it was never budgeted until that year had begun. I did change it to estimate with the lower union. It doesn't have to be that, but it could be more, it could be less. That's the way it's been going, so that's the way I budgeted for it. So I just wanted to clarify that. So that the
I
increase
want to
next year.
clarify further, I don't have a 5% raise.
No, that's for last year and next year.
So the couple of us that have that listed, that is not the fact.
No. It was for my and
So this proposed budget. The one that's dealing with, just the one that's there. Finance.
It's actually around 2 cuts.
Oh,
Where was the gasoline and the fuel oil, the new ones?
With cutting the driver's ed, Frank, we had raised his budget $1,000 for gasoline, just as an overflow caution. So we decided to cut that. And fuel oil had actually decreased by 2 pennies, so we had increased with an expectation of that. So we decreased fuel oil by that. So those are cuts we can make.
So there's the $582,000 gap we have with the pension plan, pulls that money out of fund balance. Based on your fund balance analysis, we're solved this year, maybe next year. After that, doesn't, a lot of different what we do. And Kowski pricing, expecting everything, that's kind of going today. Revenues stay where they are. We're probably going to be looking at some seriously hard times. Fair assessment,
Absolutely.
Seriously hard problems
but no money.
we, like,
Means that we
we don't open the door.
All
Last
non-essential
2 years,
Yeah, it's essential services only, you know.
truly, it's your academics, no fluff, no extras, no.
No athletics.
And if you go up to 30 plus in his class, you go to, which is what other just, like, can't currently is at.
All right.
And we will be looking at in the high school, student is class of 25. And, you know, that's going to be.
Not to paint too much of a picture, but kind of be realistic. Honest.
Keep pushing this. We've got to find a merger somewhere. Some of the school districts, they're all in the same situation.
You gotta,
So one of these neighboring schools have got a merger again.
Well, 3 of the schools that we probably have the closest relationship to, that are doing things with actively, are Clifton, Fine, Harrisville, and Herman DeKalb should agree, but we've already gone and met up to your steps, and they're not knocked back.
Why is that? What do you think that is?
I was told you're in the middle of a legal situation, because they were already in a full-fledged merger idea with like Hubleton and a few other schools. Until that's resolved, they can't, no. I mean, I've contacted Herman DeKalb, I've asked to speak to them, but we have a lot better relationship as far as working things together with Clifton Fine Harris. Because we actually, I mean, started last year with some things, Amy's enhanced even more what we're doing with them. And they're truly, I mean, not that Herman's not a small school, but, you know, Harrisville is a smaller school, Clifton Fine is a smaller, eventually, they're gonna be the same spots. I think Clifton might last a little longer, because they have a higher fund at this point balance.
Also,
You agree? So, yeah.
the ones who have the tax rate, the ones who are hurting are the ones who are reliant on state aid, which we are. We're very reliant. I mean, we have $8 million from state aid, $1 million, or almost $2 million from taxes. When you have a higher tax rate, 1% equals 1. It's easier to increase your budget.
And Watertown was saying he get 1.7, was going to give $179,000. 1.7 here.
Well, 2% gives us $36,000.
More area, bigger school.
Yes.
I understand that.
well. Anything else, any other good news?
You know I'm not a good news person. Unfortunately, no. Actually, I do have some slight good news.
Okay.
We can sell those, we can sell the excess or surplus inventory, the fans, the pumps that John had talked about, the pumps.
Pumps.
We can sell those and they should not affect our building either.
We actually have 2 pumps, a kiln, and a table saw that we would like to put on the, Kate, did you do a resolution? Because that was last minute, we found out that we put on the auctions international to sell those things out. The pumps new, were about 6,000.
6,000, so we're hoping to get 3,000. I mean, they haven't been used, but they were designed specifically for our building. So finding somebody else to use them, they may have to invest more, so
True, but I never thought we'd get what we got out of the tank, so.
that's true.
No, nor did John, so that was a real favorable.
Is that money that we got from the banks and where is everything? Where
No,
is that money?
it goes into our fund balance.
Is it in here now? How much did we get for that?
7,300.
Close to 7.
See what I have that balance for you?
We don't have any of it. One of the other things I brought up other years, it's always been pushed back, is the possibility of charging for musical instruments. If you charged, we have 107 students that play instruments, each person $25 a year. That would cover basically our repair rate of what we pay to send our instruments out to be repaired. And it would go up to a maximum of $50 per family if you had 3 or 4 children. Obviously, if you're paying to rent it downtown Potsdam, you're paying a couple hundred, half a year. The other part of that is, again, free and reduced lunch would not be asked to pay. Because we don't want a student not to play an instrument because they can't afford it. But I think most families could afford $25. In the end, that gives us $2,500 to put into repair our instruments.
So you can take that money out, that, for the repair.
All those things are probably something you will ultimately have to do anyways. So, if you have it.
They currently don't have to purchase free, so we got money for just to like an instrument that needs something like that. You know, I can remember having to buy my reeds when I was a student, and they don't have to do that currently, so that, you know, this is a different way to recoup something, but that's not.
I mean, it's hard to gauge the impact of potential pain. Something like that. There again, I guess maybe fundraisers or something like that, to raise money to help pay the instruments. I don't know.
Well, as we know, we had connected with the 5 local school districts to merge for a marching band. And when we put a $100 fee on it per student, no one's interested. And that, I mean, we're talking about $100, and that's the only way we can continue to run it, just like if we merge in a sport, we're going to have to charge in and out, because then it cuts into that cost.
Sure.
But I thought it was really sad that the superintendents, as soon as they found out that we were looking for $100, it was done.
It's cheaper than that. Do we want to talk about the equipment budget? We're talking about budget items?
Well, do we want to just go through all of round 2?
We sure can.
Because there's several not here.